Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for, as Laura said, sticking around for the last panel of the day. But of course you did, because it's TV and it's one of the most fun panels of the day. Very much looking forward to this and a stellar panel to talk to. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself. I'll start with you, Sean.
Hi, I've had about 6 coffees today. If I run to the toilet, it's not because I'm nervous, I just need to go to the toilet, sorry. I'm Seun, I'm Managing Director for Investment for IPG Mediabrands.
Hi, I'm Pippa. I don't need to go to the toilet. I'm Director of Digital Advertising at Sky Media.
Hiya, I'm Kat. I'm Media Planning Lead at Miroma Founders Network.
Hi, I'm Wright. I'm VP of Sales for UK and International at Vevo.
Welcome all to the panel. Really looking forward to this discussion. Toilet breaks aside, Sean, just give us a shout if you need to dash. I wasn't expecting that. So we're going to be getting into YouTube actually in quite a lot of depth. We'll talk about the fragmentation of TV, but we're going to specifically focus on the rise of YouTube. Pippa, Sean, we were on a panel at ATS London 2024, and my final question for that panel was, is YouTube TV? That seems to have been fairly definitively answered over the past 12 months, so there's a lot for us to dive into today. I'm going to kick off with a general question. How is YouTube really kind of redefining, and streaming in general, redefining what we consider television? Chris, I'll talk to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it comes as any surprise in this room that as an industry we obsess around definitions. Is YouTube TV? Is it not TV? I think there's a little bit of ambiguity in that, depending on the content sets, but conceptually, of course, YouTube is very different to the likes of linear TV. Linear TV is about big moments, big shared moments, I should say. YouTube, of course, it can deliver those in pockets, but it's predominantly around a million different moments, a million different mindsets that make up that kind of cumulative effects of significant viewership. For me, what I would say is that I think the current level of discourse and scrutiny around the role of YouTube is a really positive thing, whether that's how it's being measured, whether it's who's distributing content across it, whether it's just more generally the role that it's playing within the AV mix. Anything that shines a light on the nuance required to navigate and maximise the opportunity on connected TV, on YouTube, is a really positive thing, because YouTube is not one homogenous entity. It's incredibly disparate, and advertisers need to treat it as such.
Yeah, Kat, how have you seen YouTube change the TV landscape?
Yeah, so from my perspective, YouTube is coming at it at all angles. Obviously, like primarily where it started is very short form, user-generated content, but with kind of huge investments in kind of the opposite side of the scale in terms of sort of live sport and longer form quality content. I'd say the kind of, back to the definition of it, in terms of audiences that kind of lean towards YouTube first as their platform, they would consider that their TV, and therefore that is kind of the era in which we're adapting to. So we might be sat on a panel here and kind of saying it's not TV as we traditionally know it, but there is a huge volume of audience that would consider the absolute opposite of that. But them as kind of a content arm, you can kind of see that they are trying to arm themselves to be ready for all kind of the full landscape of TV content.
Yeah, Pippa, how do you feel about the rise of YouTube and its definition?
I feel great about the rise of YouTube. We make a lot of money out of it. Whether I'd call it TV and whether I think it's been definitively determined to be TV, I would probably push back on a little bit, to be honest. I think we all got a little bit thrown by some of the statistics that came out maybe 2 years ago now, when Nielsen started saying, oh, YouTube's 12% of all CTV viewership or all big screen viewership in the US, and every headline started trotting out, YouTube is the biggest TV channel in the US. And we all just kind of took it, I think, but YouTube is fundamentally not a TV channel. You know, whether or not it's changing content consumption is a different question, but it is a tech platform that enables 110 million channels to exist within it, the majority of which have no editorial rigor, have no regulatory oversight, have no structured programming. And that's not to be disparaging about YouTube, because I think YouTube is a real hub and hive of creativity. It's a really exciting place for advertisers to find new audiences, and actually it's a fantastic way for broadcasters to create new content and distribute it in a different way. But it still has a different purpose. And I think when you are advertising on that platform, if you're looking at it as kind of broader YouTube, you have to come at it with a certain amount of intentionality, and you have to be a little bit careful about how you're leveraging it as a platform. That said, for broadcasters like Sky, it is a really important and meaningful way for us to get content out in a different way and to meet audiences where they are in the way that they are consuming, which no doubt has changed massively over the last couple of years because of YouTube.
Yeah. And Sean, how do you feel about this?
I disagree with Pippa.
Oh, what a shocker. Oh my God, it's last year all over again.
I disagree with her on so many levels, actually, so I don't know where we start. But I'll come back to my disagreement in a second, but I think you can't... I guess one rebuttal I would say is that I guess if people are identifying YouTube as TV, that's what they identify YouTube as being TV. No pun there, but like when I'm thinking about, I think it's worth looking at the consumer, right? Let's start with the consumer. And I was thought about something when knowing I was coming on this panel. Me and my wife went on date night, which we do sometimes. So we dropped my son at my sister's house, and he said something quite profound. He sat there with his cousins. My sister put on, I think it was Disney Plus or Netflix. And he said, before we commit to what we're going to watch, I thought, this is my son, clearly, very considered. Before we commit to what we're going to watch, can we go watch the trailers on YouTube? And I just thought to myself, it dawned on me, I was like, wow, if you grew up like most of us probably grew up, you kind of used to base your life on what you're going to watch. Like, I will make sure dinner's ready by 7:15 to watch EastEnders on BBC One. Or, if I wanted to have a bit of starters, have it ready 7:15 to watch Coronation Street. If I love my food, I might want a chaser. So maybe start at 6:30 to watch Hollyoaks on Channel 4. But basically what I'm trying to say is that we used to base our life based on what was on TV. But what we're living in now is a completely demand-driven generation. And I think one of the challenges when we talk about this being TV, that being TV, I think people assume that if you say that, that means traditional TV is dead. It's not dead, right? But, I use this stat a lot. YouTube's like 20 years old, right? So that means an intern in my AV team today has only known TV on demand, which actually when he's planning for our clients, that could cause some biases. Thank God we don't just rely on him or her to do our planning. We've got planning tools that look at reach curves, etc. But fundamentally, it is changing. It's changing the way we plan for our clients, and therefore we need to have the right balance of traditional, YouTube, maybe Disney, Netflix, whatever it is. But if we're fundamentally looking for the eyeballs at that right time to deliver that objective.
Yeah. Nice. Well, good. I like a bit of disagreement in the first question. Always good to set the stall out. I want to talk a bit about what that means for advertisers, though, and how, from each of your aspects of the industry, how we can really use YouTube and really take advantage of these opportunities. Kat, I'll start with you on this. How do you advise brands on their involvement in YouTube? How would you recommend they get involved?
We very much start, it comes up all the time, where does YouTube sit? What is the KPI of it? Is it performance? Is it brand? So that is usually kind of the starting point to understand kind of what are we trying to achieve from it? Are we wanting to reach a particular audience in a particular environment, or does it need to deliver a particular result in a very particular sort of period of time? And then from that, we can start to advise kind of where YouTube kind of sits within it. I think a lot of the things, and it kind of comes back to some of your points around the definition of TV and where YouTube started from. It's not necessarily set up to be a quality environment, and the ad role of that and where ads are placed really kind of impacts how ads are received by audiences. And so when we're kind of talking about stature and quality and those kind of metrics, we've got to be really careful in terms of how we plan in YouTube. but it does have a really significant role to play when we're thinking about potential performance and being able to cost effectively deliver against content and kind of get the right frequency volumes to deliver against kind of campaign goals. So yeah, it's the starting point is brand or performance off the back of that, and how it kind of works alongside all other placements.
Yeah, you've touched on a couple of things there that I do want to pick up with Chris to start with. I mean, Pippa, in your first answer, you said there are 110 million channels or something on YouTube for people to choose from, but it's not all created equal. It's a very varying degrees of quality throughout. And Chris, you know, this is something you're seeing with Vevo on YouTube.
Absolutely, yeah. I think fundamentally one of the biggest challenges across not just YouTube but the wider video landscape is that, as you say, not all video is created equally. There is an abundance of choice from a commercial and a consumer perspective. There's lots of different suppliers who are offering multiple different viewing experiences, multiple different ad experiences as well. So it can get a little bit overwhelming. And I guess, if you'll indulge me for a couple of minutes to talk about research results, that's really the reason why we embarked upon a bit of a research journey over the last couple of years. And it started with our partnership with Channel 4 and Flood, trying to understand the impact that advertising around premium content has on the ad effectiveness of the ads that surround it, specifically on YouTube. And then we built on that last year with a study alongside Amplified Intelligence, analysing different content sets, and again trying to understand the impact that has on the intention of the ads that surround those different sets, specifically on YouTube and specifically on the TV screen. So there was a really, I guess, the combined output of both of those things was pretty profound. From when you're thinking about premium content and surrounding premium content versus non-premium, you could see a really stark uptick in brand perception, so things like trust, things like quality, things like prestige. You could see premium content is a driver of brand consideration, it's a driver of obviously attention as well. So these are obviously kind of intuitive things, like you would probably expect that to be the case, but it's always great to have that independently verified, and I guess just really speaks to the nuance required, and I guess to Kat's point, then there is nuance required to navigate not just YouTube, but that wider video ecosystem as well.
Yeah, Pippa, on our briefing call, I thought as a representative of Sky, you'd be coming in with the kind of YouTube's the shark in the water angle, and in fact, Sky do great things with YouTube. You know, a big publisher on the channel. Like you said, you make a lot of money from it. So how does it interact with Sky on a day-to-day, and what's the power of it for you and for your advertisers?
Yeah, it's a massive part of our business, despite my definitions. I actually love YouTube. It's a really core part of our business model. Sky Media is, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, reseller of YouTube in Europe. Sky Sports is the biggest sports publisher on YouTube. We reach 16 million users a month, deduplicated users a month through Sky Sports alone. And we also resell on behalf of a lot of our media partners. So like the Lad Bible, Fremantle, the Overlap, all of that comes through Sky Media. So it's a massive part of our business. And that is only going to grow and continue to grow. Sky Sports in its 10th year of consecutive growth. And what's really important about it is that growth is not coming from our existing audience. It's not users who are watching Sky Sports on their TV and then going to YouTube to watch a different kind of analysis. It's quite a new audience. Like 60% of our audience on YouTube are under 35. When we look at our incremental reach that comes through YouTube and social, it's like 44% incremental to what we see on TV and digital. So it's a massive growth area for us. It's really critical. When we work with advertisers, I think the important thing that we're trying to get across is that you can't look at YouTube in a silo, whether it's that kind of broader YouTube play that you were talking about or the more premium curated environments that you were talking about, Chris. You've still got to think about it really upstream in your media planning and look at it all holistically. And, it's been really interesting to see agencies kind of collapse their AV and digital teams over the last few months, because I think it's a real indicator of the fact that we are having to think about this media mix as kind of one and the same, looking at it holistically. So we're trying to encourage that across the board. We're just about actually to go live with an Uber Eats campaign that everybody's super excited about, because it's taking a linear sponsorship of the Premier League and extending it not just into YouTube but also X and TikTok in a really meaningful way. Like it's a significant part of the investment, and recognizing that they all play very different roles in that journey, because live sports now, it's not really just confined to like the 90 minutes that happens on a football pitch. It's the conversation that happens around that. It's the virality that builds through key moments and exciting goals. And, you know, if you want to be part of that fandom and really embed yourself as a brand into that conversation, you just cannot lose sight of the importance of a platform like YouTube.
Yeah, and it's that kind of that cross-device interaction is so interesting as well. And like you say, you know, it's not just the 90 minutes of football anymore. It's the snatch moments. It's the Dominic Szoboszlai scoring against Arsenal to win the game. It's that kind of thing that people really, really love and really go for. Sean, how are you finding clients? Kind of, what's the demand for, first of all, YouTube, and then the kind of the whole cross-device play?
Yeah, I think it's that extension of your linear TV to your other TV screens. So I think what's quite fascinating is, you know, Barb will tell you that, I think it's the stat is 50% of YouTube is now connected to TVs. Like, that's quite big when you think about 2021, we're at 14%. So it's fundamentally changing the way people are consuming media. And you kind of alluded to that earlier. So to that end, we've got to make sure we're finding those right users at the right place. And for us, we've got a OS called Interact at IPG. And essentially, we use it as a planning tool. But with every planning tool, it's the outputs are only as good as the inputs, right? So part of the inputs for the traditional channels, we have kind of reach curves from Barb fed into it. But we've also got seamless integration with a lot of our digital partners, and that's integrated it. So if we wanted to do a campaign and we wanted to look for, I don't know, 1+ reach on 18 to 44-year-olds, Interact will spit out supplier and budget recommendations to deliver that. We'll run the campaign, and then we'll ingest the data back into Interact. And then that will use the same methodology where it showed the reach overlap to say, here's the reach you've delivered. So for us, it's less about, you know, okay, just linear or just YouTube, or it's looking at it, to your point, holistically, and trying to work out how do we deliver it for our clients across all those channels.
Yeah. Talked a lot about the positives of YouTube. I want to hear a little bit about the challenges that the industry is still going to face here. I think it's good to touch on brand safety here, particularly with programmatic buying across, you know, CTV and YouTube. Pippa, what do you feel like the challenges currently facing the industry around YouTube are?
Well, I mean, I think we've solved them, haven't we? Didn't I just say Sky's curated that premium brand safe environment for all advertisers to come and test out?
I just keep throwing the softballs.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are challenges with any walled garden, right? There are huge benefits to working with YouTube, but with that, you kind of got to play by their rules, and that creates challenges, particularly from a publishing perspective, where we are trying to figure out how to commercialize that inventory and that audience who are sitting on the platform. I think historically one of our biggest challenges in reselling that inventory has been data. You know, YouTube is fairly restrictive in terms of the data that you can bring into that platform. And that has made it difficult to really have that kind of upstream holistic approach that everyone knows is important. What I will say on that is that I think there is a lot of, there's a lot of progress being made, and actually we're working with a partner called Covatic at the moment, who have done some incredible work building out data segments through a kind of mixture of on-device processing and overlay of third-party data to basically kind of replicate and rebuild the ad smart segments that we use to target in linear, so that actually we can create more of that sort of unified cross-platform approach that's been missing a little bit. So I think data's been a real challenge. And then on the programmatic front, there are limitations in terms of what you can plug into your tech stack and what that then enables you to do as a publisher and how you utilize that inventory. Again, like there's great progress being made. We've just done a brilliant piece of work with Brain Labs about unified CTV, where actually they leverage PG deals through DV360 to cross-publisher frequency cap through Sky Sports, YouTube, and Netflix. So finding the same audiences, the same types of content, but ensuring that we were deduplicating, you know, that we were maximizing reach, exactly as you say. But there are limitations around that because it has to go through DV360. So if you're not plugged into them as a DSP, then you can't do it, basically. So the walled garden creates challenges, but they're not unsurmountable, I think.
Yeah. Kat, what do you think about the challenges you see?
Yeah, I guess from a content safety perspective, a lot of the clients that I work with are in a very high growth phase. So yes, of course, there are certain environments that they want to stay clear of and they don't want to be seen around. But their primary objective is, how do I grow my business through inventory? And kind of there is a certain level of acceptance of compromise, I think, when coming to YouTube and YouTube content, to say, based on this kind of cost and this kind of environment, we would accept this if we can get that sort of performance back. I think the main challenge that we see comes back to what level of data is available and the inconsistency by different platforms and suppliers to the sort of walled garden element that you referenced. There is a huge demand and desire from advertisers to grow their digital connected TV spend, but with the lack of data to kind of measure it back, and they're looking for quite simplistic view of, I spent this and I got this back, and that is really hard to achieve in connected TV, and it's a real barrier and a real challenge for them growing their investment. But I think from a content perspective, there is a certain level of acceptance that it's not going to be as high a quality as all broadcast inventory.
Yeah, and Chris, what do you think regarding the challenges for Vevo?
I mean, I've been intending to agree with the first comment that Pippa made around you can solve brand safety challenges in a blink of an eye by working with premium suppliers. I think that's a pretty straightforward way to operate. I mean, from a programmatic and data perspective, again, looking at it from a cross-sell partner as we are, we've always been challenged around usage of YouTube's data. They are famously guarded about the data, probably understandably so. It goes right to the heart of their business model. I would say that there's been a potentially slight softening of that approach this year. And an example of that would be we can now transact via instant reserve, so we can push our inventory through those instant reserve pipes, allow brands to isolate our inventory and guarantee access against the inventory, accessing all that good stuff I just mentioned from a research perspective, and then overlay the broader capabilities within DV360, so frequency management, audience data, etc. So, I can't see a world in which we'll ever be fully allowed usage of that data, but step in the right direction.
Yeah, Sean, what are the challenges from you from the IPG side?
I think there's layers to this. This is a net new question, by the way. I think there's layers to this. Pippa alluded to earlier and said, like, YouTube's got loads and loads of channels and loads. So I think the point of that's one of the layers, is that at IPG, we've got, so Barbara has Fit for TV. We've essentially got like TV almost, basically. So to your point, both of your points, it's about how do we extend that premium content. So when you think about challenges, it's that, well, there's so much inventory there. The challenges come when it's a bit Wild West. But actually, when you're considered in your planning and buying approach, you've got that. So I think that suits it quite well, because obviously with the light TV product we've got, we will look at Vevo, etc., and look how do we extend essentially our TV buy. So I think that's a big part of it. But the actual challenge for me is less around YouTube. It's around, to your point, around the walled gardens, because yes, YouTube is great. It's got scale, but so is using Amazon and hitting Prime Video. So is using Adform or Trade Desk to do an omni-channel buy to look at further users. So it's not just about looking in one sandpit per se. It's about looking at the whole ecosystem to deliver for our clients.
Nice. I think we're heading towards the end of time here, but I want to ask if YouTube and the fragmentation of TV in general is forcing a bit of a rethink of the media mix for brands and advertisers. I'll start with you, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, to echo Sean's point around buyers being considered around the content and the inventory they're looking at, I mean, to oversimplify, I guess, the way that we're working with a lot of brands is they're coming to us with a content-first strategy. So they want to use that as the guiding principle. They want to work with premium suppliers whose content is similar to that of TV. They want to work with those suppliers who don't compromise on scale, because that's always going to be incredibly important to them. And you know, most people in this room know this already, but they're feeling empowered to do that because of the changes to Google's attribution policy around the video incentive program. So spend activated via DV360 with, you know, not just Vevo, any supplier contributes towards an agency or client's YouTube commitment, and that is a really, really big deal, because it means that buyers, planners, marketers, they feel that they can isolate the best bits of YouTube without having to find additional budgets to support those buys. And yeah, that is a really positive step that we've seen this year. It's going to ultimately lead to a more democratized ecosystem, and just gives people on the buy side that freedom to appraise suppliers and content sets on their merits, which is ultimately what everyone wants, rather than having to think about those kind of trading restrictions running in the background.
Kat?
Yeah, so absolutely kind of at a tipping point with clients at the moment in terms of their desire to shift some of their linear spend into digital and potentially take other platform spend back into connected TV. So we're working really closely with them to basically scope out every bit of data that we can get to model out what is the best view in the absence of a holistic view. And I think it's taken that leap of confidence in that investment change. And we're seeing it more than ever. It's kind of every day I'm having a call or a conversation about how do we model this to kind of increase our connected TV investment.
Nice. Pippa, where do you think it sits now?
Yeah, I'd say almost exactly the same thing, to be honest. I don't think it's just YouTube that's shifting how challenging figuring out the right media mix is. It's everything. It's all of the different platforms that we're having to work with. Like, someone at Sky Sports told me the other day that they now create 3,000 clips a week, 3,000 different clips a week to go out across all of our channels. So when you think about what that means in terms of like audiences and content consumption, and therefore the media mix that has to sit alongside it, it's just incredibly complex. The good thing about having that volume and that variety of content is that it gives you all of that data that you're talking about, which hopefully helps to inform how we evolve that media mix and how we understand what we're solving for and how to plan for it. But, you know, the lack of transparency across all of those platforms, it's not just YouTube, does create challenges for that. And I think it's, you know, it's what we're all trying to work through, isn't it?
I love the fact that, but I can't remember the question because I focused on the toilet. But I love the fact that you guys are embracing it, because many times people look at YouTube as a competitor, but really, publishers, you should be using it and thinking about it as a distributor, really. And you know, how do I resell my content on it? Because that's what it's becoming. Sorry, what was the question anyway?
Your answer was fine, to be honest. Yeah. I think you covered it off anyway. It was good. Yeah, I've got nothing further to say on that, though. So, yeah, well, Pippa, that's given us quite a bit to talk about next year when you come back for the next ATS London.
Can't wait for part 3. Will Sean be back as well?
We'll completely.
Going to shout at me again?
Yeah.
I'll disagree with her again.
Oh, that's why I'm here. I love it. So, well, thank you all for being on the panel. I've had a great time. Lovely conversation.